grandmother taught me one thing. She said, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. It don't matter if you play 1,000 notes. If you can play one note that sounds good, that'll touch somebody, that's what you do.
Can I have a talk with you?
Very few times in life we run across a person that immediately and permanently changes your life. For me, one of those people we lost yesterday. And I'm sitting here now at what used to be called Harlow's. They call it the Flea now. A tiny venue, maybe it holds 30 people, where some of the best blues that's ever been played was played. This is the place that we said goodbye to Don Chips. This is the place that Norman Jackson, as small as the venue is, it felt like a stadium where the people went crazy, where the blues was so hot it felt like soul was dripping from the walls. I have so many memories of rocking this house with the soul machine, Norman Jackson. I don't know exactly what I want to say to you guys today, but I thought, as a tribute to him, I would tell his story, at least in short form. Norman Jackson was born in Canton, Ohio, and he loved his mama. His dad was tough on him. They moved to Detroit, and Norman spent most of his childhood in Chicago, where he fell in love with a lot of things. Some things that might be surprising to you, like swimming. Norman was a pretty athletic young guy. Grew up later. Another surprising thing is he became a garbage man. Did that for a long time. And Norman, like with most anything else, found a way for anything to shine. And whenever he would tell stories about driving that truck, man, he made that life sound perfect. He eventually moved and made Springfield, Missouri his permanent home, where over the years he touched more musicians' lives than can ever be counted. You know, he played with Don Chips in the famous Titanic Blues Band for sure, and Don was one of Norman's most important people. Norman Jackson touched so many people here. The amount of musicians that were born and bred out of his jam sessions. And Norman proudly said every one of my shows is a jam session. You can't count the amount of musicians that grew under his learning tree by getting those songs to play and sing with him. I met Norman for the first time when I was 12 years old. Standing outside the window of the bar next door, I saw this man, and he was magic. You know, met him that night and chatted. And over the years, I got lucky enough to play with him off and on. And I learned so much from him. Some of it by what you should do, and some of it by what you shouldn't do. Over the years, I came in and out of the band. I'd go play with this band or that band, or start my own band, but I'd always come home to Norman. Norman had a lot of struggles. We all know that. And for all those who took joy when he fell, shame on you. Because for as much trouble as he may have caused folks, he brought far more joy in abundance over that. The last run I had with the band, I don't know, it's been 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know. He found me. I hadn't played publicly for a couple years. I had my heart broken with the band I was with and couldn't stand to even pick up my horn, and he found me. And he said, Rick, I want you to come back to the band and give me one last good run. And from there it became my dream to see the world have the opportunity to experience his magic. And it was tough. There were ups and downs, that's for sure. You know, because at the time the band was only playing 2 places, you know, and making $20 to $30 a man for 4-hour shows. We started branching out, moving out regionally and doing this and that and hitting the road. And then somehow, some way, we went to the IBC, the International Blues Challenge in Memphis, and we were unknown. We were nobodies. We didn't have the advantage of living in Memphis or being based out of Chicago or knowing this person or that person. And we were broke. We had these broke down vehicles that would break down all the time, leave us stranded in the middle of the night in places, and had no money in the bank. But yet somehow we were making it happen. And we won 3rd in the world at the 2016 IBC put on by the Blues Foundation. We were the number 3 blues band in the world. I was so proud. I was so proud that the world recognized the last great unknown blues man had been found. Norman was the real deal. A lot of people play blues man, dress up as blues man. Norman was the real thing. Like a lot of the great blues masters, he had this way of giving the nod to the people before him, but he was never a carbon copy. He wasn't a guitar hero. He was tried and true all the way through, a real blues man. He lived it. He was it. And those stories that he told, authentic. And he taught me that. One of the greatest things he ever taught me was, when you go out there on stage, just be yourself. Let it all out. And he let me do that. He let me go wild. He let me let it out. I'm so proud that I got to travel the world twice with Norman Jackson, all over Europe and Korea, all over America, and blues festivals and clubs. You know, stuff that happened, man, Norman, he had this habit. He'd put on one CD and he would play it on repeat the entire way for hours. You know, there's Johnny Guitar or Sam Cooke or Al Green, Albert King, or his favorite Little Milton. One thing, though, he always did, though, is after the show, because I did most of the driving, after the show, we'd be tired and worn out to have to make the next town. To keep me awake, he knew exactly what to do. He'd put on this Canton Spirituals CD. He knew I loved it. You see, Norman was traveled and played gospel a good portion of his younger life. He was an ordained reverend, and he loved God. He was not a perfect man. He was a complicated man. But I can tell all of you that his mantra was just to make people smile. That's what he lived for. And that's what he reminded us. That was our job, was to make people smile. And he used the blues to do that. Singing about the troubles of life, he used that to bring smiles to all our faces. When he and I were on stage together, I mean, me, this white kid who never had close family, who was a cast-off and an outcast, and him, a black man from Chicago, and we became family. He was my dad. I think a lot of people out there probably feel like Norman was family. For sure, he had that way about him. And I can tell you that I've seen Norman give money he couldn't afford to give to others. And if there was a panhandler on the side of the street, he was the first to open his wallet. And one thing he taught me was, it's not for us to judge what that person will do with the blessing you gave them. Our only responsibility is, if we felt led by God, that we are to be obedient. That was it. I could tell you stories all day. I could tell you how much he loved White Castle and Church's chicken. It would take all day. I could write 10 books about my life with him. So as this tribute to my friend goes, I have to thank the people that I know worked as hard as I did to help Norman. Norm Jr., Andy, Blondie, and to Norman's kids, who became my family too. You were the apple of his eye. He talked about you all the time. Norman Jackson loves his kids and his mama. And Norman said it so much it almost became a Norman Jackson cliche. But it's true, and I have to leave you with this. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. That was Norman. Not a perfect man, but a good man. And a real blues man. A giant amongst men who, when he stood on stage or when he talked one-on-one with people, he seemed impenetrable, charismatic, confident. Behind the scenes, Norman struggled, hoping to feel loved, so I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Boogie and Darla, who always stuck beside him, even when it was hard. Clay, he loved you like a brother. I don't know how much more I can make it through this, so just want to ask all of you to remember my friend. Remember how he made you laugh. Remember his laugh. Wow, he had a great laugh. Oh, come on, man. You know how it is. Hey, tell me something, man. How's our wife doing? What a giant amongst men. So here's to you, Dad. Here's to the guys in the band. All of them over the years. There's too many to name. But most recently, Danny Williams, who, man, was a true friend to Norm. The Boogeyman. Federico, Samuel. Thanks for taking those long road trips. 18 hours straight from Florida. I love you guys. Thank you to all the folks who came out and supported us. Thank you for the folks who booked this. Thank you for coming to the festivals. Thank you for helping me see the dream of Norman getting to play for folks all over the world come true. And I thank you, Norman, for the chance to meet all the friends that I never would have met without you. For me, the magic will never die. For all of you, Norman will always be alive in the songs he gave you, in the memories he gave you, and in the smiles he gave you. I love you, Dad. And for one last time, I get to say, as he's walking through the gates of heaven, St. Peter, let me teach you how to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Soul Machine, Norman Jackson. I sure am proud of you.
I would like to be remembered as a person that was not selfish and a person that above all loved the Lord. Because when you can truthfully say you love the Lord, you're willing to do his will. That's giving, that's helping. I got a part in my song that I say, the hardest thing for us to learn how to do is to love your enemies, is to talk to people that you know been talking about them. I want to give that kind of image that I'm not perfect, but Lord knows I'm trying. And if people can look and say, you know, Norman was just like me. He wasn't perfect, but he tried to do his best. And my grandmother always said, it's not about how much you do, it's about what you're doing. It's easy to talk about the problem, but what are you doing to solve the situation? And so I would like to be an example to people that I love my enemies. I try to treat my neighbors right, that I'm doing the best I can do, that I'm no better than you. But most of all, I want people to know that I love the Lord. And that's my whole thing. Look here, he is the head of my life. I love my wife. I love my mom and them. I love my music. But I love him because when you know, at night, when everything else seemed against you, man, you can talk to him and he's there. You know what I mean? And people say, how do you know? I say, let me tell you something. When you really pray and you talk to him, he's going to let you know he's there, because you're going to get this feeling over you that you can go to sleep now. You can lay down and rest. And so I just want people to remember me as a person who loves the Lord and trying to do his will. And I think that's important.
Man, that sounds like Chicago blues there. Hey, Rick.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Man, I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Man, I was on the west side.
Man, going to the Regal Theater, man, I